Yeah, President Trump has accomplished so much in just a few days, if you look at it. And you're so right. Under Biden, we saw what Putin did. We saw what Putin did under Obama, and we saw it during the Bush era. So President Trump really deserves so much credit for what's happening. And of course, we can't fully trust Vladimir Putin, right? But at least there's progress. At least there's talks. And we have those on the left who are screeching. They're foaming at the mouth over these meetings. But how are you going to accomplish anything if there's no dialogue? The dialogue has to happen. And even this morning during the White House press briefing, there were reporters trying to suggest that, Putin is making these efforts to meet with Trump because of some nefarious reason, as if, like they're colluding together for something, and there's just nothing there. And President Trump is so effective. He even got Zelensky to drop the velour tracksuit and show up in something. Yeah, yes. Almost. It wasn't exactly a suit. It was like close to a suit. It's like the closest thing, suit. Yeah, that he could possibly be in that is close to a suit. But yeah, I mean, this is incredible. And think of all of the things that President Trump has done in the past few months when it comes to trying to bring peace around the world. He's made it very clear he doesn't want to see people dying. These are men, fathers, sons who are dying in these endless, unnecessary wars, and Trump wants to see a stop to it.
Yeah, the suit was such a point of conversation yesterday. Everyone was talking about that. It's some kind of suit. It's not a traditional suit, but yeah. It's the closest to a traditional suit I think we've ever seen Zelensky
I think it's symbolic of something that Zelensky's making effort. So I feel like there's something good on the horizon here that, he's buttoning up and being respectful and now willing to actually have a conversation. So I know it's just a suit, but I think it's more meaningful than when we just look at it, totally. At its face.
And I noticed, Brianna, Zelensky was very grateful and he was happy to say it when he was in the meeting with President Trump, right? If you go back to that meeting that sort of went awry, where you had the president, basically having to lambaste him a little bit, and you had our vice president there as well saying, listen, you haven't even said thank you. Are you even grateful type of thing? He must have said thank you about 20 times in this meeting they had, and he made it very clear that he is grateful. But I think the fact that you had this meeting and you had, Brianna, all of these European leaders show up as well is very significant. I mean, people really kind of talked like this was not even a possibility like 7 months ago, that it would be ridiculous to think that we could get some sort of a peace agreement between these two countries. And I agree with Stephanie. Look, Putin is slippery. We don't know exactly what he's going to do. To say that, if he's going to say there's a ceasefire, we know he kind of doesn't play that way. But it does sound like that he realizes that maybe there is something more he can achieve if he kind of takes a step back, takes President Trump's offer to kind of just be a little bit more normal at this point. So I feel like we have a very promising future ahead of us with all of this, going on.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look at the individuals who's in that now really famous picture of Donald Trump sitting at, at his desk in the Oval Office, the only different person in that photo throughout this conflict is Donald Trump, right? He is the kingpin in all of this. He is the game changer, because all of these European leaders, they could have tried to do this over the past 2 years. They could have tried, but they wouldn't have succeeded because they do not have the might that Donald Trump has. So that's the difference. The second thing, and this is to Stephanie's earlier point, Donald Trump is the only leader, at least in my lifetime, that actually has a revulsion and he's repulsed by bloodshed, by war. He does not want to see innocent people killed. And that's very different than the neocons that we've seen running Washington, D.C. for the past few decades. And the last point I'd make is that Donald Trump is the only person who can feel the pulse of this situation. Because what the Washington, D.C. elite don't understand, what they didn't understand in 2014 with Crimea and Obama, what Biden didn't understand, is there is serious geopolitical problems right now in Ukraine and Russia. You have people living inside of Ukraine's border who do believe and consider themselves to be Russian because they were part of the Soviet Union together, right? There are so many different ties pulling these peoples and their ideologies and their political beliefs together that DC bureaucrats will never understand. And so, unfortunately for Ukrainians, they really had no other option but to cede some territory. That was the only possible outcome. So for people in the mainstream media and the Democrats to pretend like this is an outcome that they could have never expected, either they're historically illiterate or they simply don't want an end to a war.
Yeah, they have to find something though, Stephanie, right? Because it really is amazing when you look at what Donald Trump's been able to do. And I'm still not over the fact that these same people who won't give him any credit, who have to act, to Brianna's point, outraged about the fact that, wait a minute, there might be some land concessions here. There might be some sort of a negotiation that has to take place. It's not going to be that Ukraine gets to keep everything as it was and everybody goes back to, how things were before the war. You're probably going to have some sort of a back and forth on it, and there probably will have to be a concession of some sort. These same people in the media were the exact same ones who pushed the Russia collusion hoax. The whole thing that happened on Friday, all I kept thinking about was, wow, imagine how different things may have been had these disgusting human beings not decided that they hated Donald Trump so much that they were going to foment this lie and continue to perpetuate a lie about collusion with Russia and Donald Trump. I mean, he even acknowledged it, I think, when he was talking to Vladimir Putin on Friday, that, it's the way they've kind of treated us, it makes it more challenging for Donald Trump to have some sort of a relationship with Putin, to actually talk about these things. Imagine these people hadn't put that out there. Maybe things could have been a little bit easier. But despite that, you see where we are right now. You see that this is happening, and they're always going to try to figure out some way to be outraged about it. I think my favorite was our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, on the Sunday shows. He did CBS and ABC. And I mean, he really just absolutely destroyed them. You had you had all of these, you had, who was it? Margaret Brennan, and you had Martha Raddatz, and they both tried to come after him. And he basically said, if there aren't concessions, if one side gets everything they want, that's called a surrender. Yes, exactly. You have negotiations. You have to work it out. And then, of course, Martha Raddatz says, well, can you name any concessions that Vladimir Putin made during this meeting? Like he's going to talk about top level, top secret information on ABC. He goes, I wouldn't name them on your program. Why would I do that? These people just have to find anything they can, Stephanie, to be upset about. Marco Rubio destroyed them, and he makes them all look completely stupid, because that's what they are. This is, if you can't understand what's going on here, and if you can't at least give Donald Trump credit for what he's been able to do, for having these sit downs, for having people at least coming to the table and talking about ending this war, then you really just obviously hate America.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.